Well, good afternoon. I thought it would be necessary to talk about the recent arrests of comrades throughout South Africa on the fallacious basis that they had been involved in so-called instigation of the July uprisings last year. Now, nothing could be more ridiculous. When comrades are part of WhatsApp groups, they express their views strongly about the arrest of President Jacob Zuma. Of course, there were comrades who were emotional. But many of those comrades were not involved in any so-called instigation for an uprising. Not at all. Those that were in Cape Town and in Gauteng, how on earth could they have been directly involved in organizing an uprising in KwaZulu-Natal, or vice versa? Those in KZN, how could they have been involved in organizing what the state claimed to have been uprisings in Gauteng? What we are dealing with here is the deliberate targeting of those comrades among us who had the courage to speak out when President Jacob Zuma was arrested last year. What we are dealing with is direct acts of intimidation against those comrades who speak out, who make use of their democratic right, their constitutional right to freedom of speech and freedom of protest. The considerable number of comrades who've been arrested is an indication of the preparedness of this regime under which we live now to repress freedom of speech, to target those who express their views that do not comply with what the Ramaphosa regime and the Tumaminians want to do. These are the signs of an increasingly repressive and, in fact, dictatorial state. It is the kind of development that all of us should be deeply concerned about. And when our national prosecuting authority and our judiciary are complicit in actions of repression of freedom of speech and the right to freedom of protest, we must truly become deeply concerned. Many decades ago, in the era of Nazi Germany, a pastor with the name of Martin Niemöller wrote a haunting poem in which he said, first they came for the communists, then they came for the Jews, and I did nothing. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did nothing. And finally they came for me, and there was no one left to act in defense of me. I'm paraphrasing that poem by Martin Niemöller. We are now faced with a situation where our comrades are being harassed, where they are being persecuted. There are sadly some of us who think it is better to remain quiet, not to stand up and not to protest against these actions, even to try and find reasons why these comrades have been arrested. We will live to regret such actions. What we should be doing is to stand up, to protest, to call out a repressive state to point out that Cyril Ramaphosa is increasingly becoming a dictator. And if we allow him to continue to remain in power, we will most certainly end up with a dictatorial state. I have recently, in my own personal life and in my political engagements, experienced some of these actions. Last year, on the 8th of July, I was arrested live on SABC television while I was doing an interview in front of the Escort prison, where President Jacob Zuma was illegally being incarcerated because of what I believe still to this day was an illegal judgment by the majority of judges who sat on the matter of President Zuma in the Constitutional Court. I was not addressing a crowd. I was not contravening the COVID-19 regulations, farcical as they were at the time. I was speaking to a journalist on a one-to-one basis. Well, there were a few comrades gathering to hear what I had to say. And instruction was given by the Minister of Police that I should be arrested. And the arrest was executed live on national television. I was subsequently charged, and I had to appear for no less than 7 times in the magistrate's court at Escort. Eventually, my attorney and my advocate applied for dismissal of the matter because it was truly too farcical for words. The magistrate, and I must say, she should be praised for the courage that she had, expressed her absolute dismay at the manner in which this case was handled by the National Prosecuting Authority. She stated that there was no case against, that the National Prosecuting Authority was wasting her time and my time. She threw the case out and asked the question, how on earth was it possible for Mr. Niehaus to be arrested on the same day where in the morning the Minister of Justice and Correctional Services, Ronald Lamola, in the same area in front of that same prison, addressed a large crowd contravening the COVID-19 regulations? I'm now suing the state for wrongful arrest and malicious prosecution. But that's just one example of the kind of repressive actions that we are seeing all over our country at the moment. And the issue that I started this particular live broadcast with, my concern about the numerous comrades who were arrested for so-called instigation of the July uprising, must be something that we all address and are seriously concerned about. When one is a member or a participant in a WhatsApp group, first of all, you cannot take responsibility for what others say. But secondly, surely you have the right to say on that WhatsApp group that you are opposed to the illegal arrest of President Zuma, that you find it a dangerous action by the state, and that you are protesting against it. If you're not allowed to do that, if you're not allowed to speak out in that most basic of manners, then the freedom of speech that we worked for, that we struggled for, that some of our comrades died for in our country, freedom of speech that is enshrined in our Constitution, is not worth the paper it is written on. Then then the Constitution is being contravened. Then the Constitution is literally being trashed. So my dear friends and comrades, all of you who are listening to this live link up on Facebook and also on YouTube, let us stand up. Let us not be like those in the poem of Martin Niemöller who keep quiet and later find out that there is no one who is still around and still able to defend us when these thugs come for us. Unity in concern about undermining our civil rights is of the greatest importance. A continuation of expressing our views fearlessly and with conviction is absolutely essential. Yesterday, I did a live broadcast stating that I believe that it is now necessary for the members of the ANC who are in the National Executive Committee of the African National Congress and in Cabinet and who are continuing to be progressive people and true revolutionaries to leave, to resign from the NEC and from the National Executive, meaning by that the Cabinet. I made that call with conviction. I was subsequently castigated by some comrades saying that one should not be making such calls. I'm repeating that call today. I'm not scared. I will not cower. I'm asking those comrades who tell me that it's not a strategic call to explain to me how one justifies that people who call themselves still true revolutionaries remain in a cabinet, remain in a national executive, serving under a thug, a mafia boss such as Cyril Ramaphosa. I know that there are comrades who are currently being intimidated, who get charged. Day after day, I hear of comrades who are now being charged by the National Executive Committee of the African National Congress to appear in front of that reconstituted National Disciplinary Committee. A National Disciplinary Committee which now has a majority of supporters of Cyril Ramaphosa. And in fact, I believe, a National Disciplinary Committee which is illegal in terms of the constitution of the ANC. Because as a subcommittee of the National Executive Committee of the ANC, it should be constituted from the members of the National Executive of the ANC, and not people who are brought out from all over to come and join there, even when they are not members of the NEC or the ANC, which is the case now with this reconstituted NDC. A National Disciplinary Committee that has been created with a specific purpose, and that is to persecute those ANC members who are opposed to Cyril Ramaphosa and his sell-out policies, and those who he brought into the National Executive on the basis of bribing delegates at the 54th National Conference to vote for his people. Those are the issues that we are faced with now. And I understand that these charges that have been brought against me and are being brought against other members of the ANC has a clear intention, firstly, to intimidate us, and secondly, once those charges have been brought, in terms of the regulations and rules that the NEC have adopted for the nomination of delegates for the 55th National Conference, and also the nomination of those who want to stand for office in the NEC at that 55th conference, that those nominations will not be possible as long as you've been charged on a disciplinary hearing. This is the abuse of disciplinary processes. It is in contravention of the basic tenet, the basic maxim in our national constitution that every citizen must be deemed innocent until proven guilty in front of a court of law. Our comrades who've been arrested on these farcical claims that they've been part of some kind of program or process to instigate and revolt in July 2021. Those comrades of the ANC who are now being charged in front of that reconstituted National Disciplinary Committee, also including myself, all of those comrades are being targeted with a specific purpose to make sure that the current sellout program as executed by that NEC that had been bought by Cyril Ramaphosa in 2017 will continue. All of these actions are to ensure that Cyril Ramaphosa will not face responsibility for the criminal acts that he had made himself guilty of. I'm referring to the Phala Phala Farm criminal saga, but I'm also referring to many other issues, including what was revealed of funding by Bosasa, and on the basis of which Ramaphosa perjured himself through lying to the National Assembly about that issue. I'm also referring to the continuing sealing of the CR17 bank accounts. There's an array of reasons why Cyril Ramaphosa should immediately be charged, why he should immediately vacate his position as President of the African National Congress and President of our country. There's an array of reasons while the current National Executive Committee of the ANC should immediately be disbanded and be replaced by a national task team because they are not fit to be in charge of the African National Congress. On the basis of all of that, any truly revolutionary and progressive comrade who is still a member of the National Executive Committee and a member of the Cabinet of the Republic of South Africa should immediately resign. Comrades, the time had come for us to say, enough is enough. The time is now. Sekonjalo. The time is now for us to stand up and be counted. Only if we can form unity in our ranks as progressives who want to see a truly liberated South Africa will we succeed to get rid of this scourge of white monopoly capitalist domination and exploitation of our people, and our country being run and being destroyed by an agent of white monopoly capitalism and imperialism, which Cyril Ramaphosa most certainly is. I conclude this live broadcast by imposing a strong message, yes, imposing a strong message on your conscience that the time had come to grow a backbone, to stand up and to fight. a luta continua.